It was not that long ago that I got to finally sing the praises of my favorite piece of media, The Sopranos, with the really wonky celebration of their 25th anniversary of the pilot being released in the early stages of January. But hey, I finally got to talk about it, and now I have another opportunity to, because, well, we're talking about a series. We're talking about a series that, yeah, debuted 25 years ago and concluded just about 2 decades ago, and nothing has even come close. That same level of storytelling, of filmmaking, of character exploration, like for all of the premier television that's been out there, nothing has even come close to tickling my fancy the exact same way that The Sopranos did and still does. And I think that there's a reason behind that, as David Chase is pointing out here. The Sopranos creator says prestige television is dead. I would agree. I would just say that this assessment is coming out just a little bit late, but better late than never, right? Unless you're coming over for dinner, then what the fuck? Why didn't you come out a little earlier, huh? Now, reveals he has been asked to dumb down recent projects. Oh, is that the reason why Many Saints of Newark wasn't received all that well? According to Sopranos creator David Chase, thanks to an ever-growing fear among Hollywood that audiences are either unwilling or unable to engage with any level of complexity in their storytelling, the era of prestige television, if not in the entire idea of the medium as an actual art form, has officially come to an end. That's interesting, because obviously, like, I talk about one series that I actually am excited for based on its ability to tell a compelling story, write interesting characters, and that would be, as funny as it is, you know, the Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon season 2. But that's a rare example. But you just take a look, okay? Because you can go ahead and point out exceptions to the rule all day long and say that, no, he's just an old, out-of-touch man. Well, that might be true, but I think he's onto something because, okay, for every House of the Dragon that's out there, you can take a look because it's cut from the exact same cloth. Everything that has been shat out on Disney Plus in recent years, every Star Wars series, every Disney series, every Marvel series, that's from that premium delivery model, or even just going back to the home base of The Sopranos. What has HBO put out that has been super great throughout the years? Westworld started out, has a fantastic first season, fell off a cliff afterwards. Why? Because things ended up descending into ideological politics and nonsensical plot lines. Game of Thrones, the exact same way. 2 really good seasons, a couple that are, you know, kind of a little bit spotty, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. Everybody knows about 7 and 8 at this point in time, but you'll eventually come around to the right position that, you know, 5 was nihilistic trash and 6 was a dumpster fire, is equaled season 7 and season 8. But yo, you have to go back to the early 2010s in order to have an example of anything that was really smartly written, well acted, and well performed. Guy who basically perfected the medium is now performing its death rites. The creator offered his take in the current television landscape during a January 12th career retrospective interview given by the UK news outlet The Times. Met therein was the observation that host Jonathan Dean that the current year would mark the 25th anniversary of the seminal series. Rather than respond with an overtly joyous sentiment, Chase instead lamented, yes, this is the 25th anniversary, so of course it's a celebration. But perhaps we shouldn't look at it like that. Maybe we should look at it like a funeral. Well, hey man, to be fair, it's like, okay, my work speaks for itself, and the fact that it's been celebrated for, 25 years with no signs of slowing down, and it is still given the same amount of reverence that it was at the time as it was releasing, and it's only aging better, especially with the lack of competition in convening years. Yeah. Only so long that you need to celebrate for before you realize that, oh god, this medium, it's kind of crashing down around us. As to whose service he would be attending, Chase explained, the deceased was none other than the era of prestige television. Yeah, it was a very small epoch of time, if we're being completely honest. Catch-all term for shows like Breaking Bad. I've never watched, but I do understand that it has a lot of fans, okay, and it mostly stems around the character work and the script, okay? I'll eventually get around to it. It's just nothing's really that genre doesn't appeal to me at all whatsoever, if we're going to keep it a buck. Or The Sopranos, which presents audience with more mature, intricate, overarching stories than usually offered for the average network production. Yes, most of AMC and HBO's fare from the early 2000s all the way until about the mid-2010s, that's basically the time that he's talking about. It was a blip, he sadly admitted to Dean, 25-year blip. And to be clear, I'm not talking only about The Sopranos, but a lot of other hugely talented people out there who I feel increasingly bad for. Moving to provide context for his feelings, the television creator recalled to the host that when he first made a play at becoming a television screenwriter, he did so with the intention of showing Hollywood just what the medium was capable of. Exactly, and he, like I've said before multiple times over in this video, he defined a genre, guys. That was him. He's him. Made them regret all the decades of stupidity and greed, said Chase, back when the networks were an artistic pit, a shithole, and the process was repulsive. In meetings, these people would always ask to take out the one thing that made the episode worth doing. I should have quit. Exactly, and HBO took a gamble on this after their success with Oz, and I think The Wire was just before this, and a couple of the seasons ended up overlapping, but nobody wanted to take a chance on The Sopranos. What are you doing, a mob story? It's like we're 10 years removed from the whole mob trend, and also it's not going to be like a shooter gangster flick, okay? It's going to be a introspective character study about a guy who's going to therapy. No thanks. That's what everybody was talking about at the time, and HBO was like, cool, let's party. To this end, Chase noted that at this point in his career, in light of the absolute creative freedom and ad-free airtime The Sopranos was eventually afforded at HBO, he felt like he had the best job in Hollywood. Now, however, he laments the fact that the industry is going back to where I was. Yeah. They're going to have commercials, he noted in the recent introduction of ads to both Netflix and Prime Video, and I've already been told to dumb it down. Oh no, to make it more like the services that these streaming sites were supposed to be getting away from. Yeah. In support of his opinion, Chase then told Dean of one of his current projects, a series described by the latter as being about a high-end prostitute forced into witness protection. Interesting. And co-written by FX's A Teacher miniseries screenwriter Hannah Fidel, has found itself stalling in development because the unspecified network partners are worried that viewers will find the story too complicated to follow. Yeah, it's an interesting premise. I don't really think that it'd be that difficult. But again, here we are with executives being in a position where they think that they know better than the public, when in actuality you can point to like one or two creative intrusions by a studio that actually improved the overall outcome. Like, I think New Line Cinema stepping in and going, isn't that Lord of the Rings story supposed to be told across 3 films? Go ahead and do that instead of the 2 that you're trying to peddle, Peter Jackson. I think that would be a much better decision. Outside of that, and HBO going, yeah, The Sopranos, come over here, tell your story over here. What do we got to lose? Everything else has been to the detriment to the overall product. Who's this really for? He then questioned. I guess for the stockholders. And closing out his thoughts on the topic, Chase asserted, as the human race goes on, now we are more into multitasking. Your phone is just one symptom, but who can really focus? Now you're just kind of descending into boomer talking points, but I guess he's just trying to explain the thought process of the studio suits where, yeah, okay, nobody's going to be paying attention to this. You need to have, fast, quippy dialogue that people can just turn into memes online because they aren't going to be paying attention because they got other things to do other than just simply sit down and watch compelling stories that, last throughout the decades. Your mother could be dying and you were in the hospital bed taking calls. Okay, we seem to be confused and audiences can't keep their mind on things, and we can't make anything that makes too much sense, takes our attention, and requires an audience to focus. As for the streaming executives, it is getting worse. We are going back to where we were, so it's a funeral, Chase concluded. Something is dying. Yeah, man, and that's a really sad state of affairs because obviously I don't think anything has come close. And this is obviously my personal bias. I hold The Sopranos at such a high level because I've seen it a bunch. I know the story that it tells, and it's fantastic. I highly recommend it to everybody. Nothing else has come close. You might get a movie every once in a while that ranks well. You might have like House of the Dragon. Like I say, I think it's really good, but it's an 8 to The Sopranos 10. And an 8 might be pushing it. It might be closer to a 7 at the end of the day. I'd have to go back and rewatch that. But for the most part, talking in generalities, which is what you have to do when you're discussing issues like this, is that, yeah, the premium television model, it's gone, it's done, it's dusted. Not saying that it couldn't work, it's just studio executives, studio meddling, the need to turn a profit supersedes the art that all of these streaming services, all of these luxury cable stations were designed to pander to. Rather provide a platform for. Totally different meaning to that one, by the way. You're making them superfluous and you're morphing them into the things that they offered a refuge from back in the day when they were first launched. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.